Hi, good morning to everyone. In this session, we have to discuss about one of the corrosion control method, that is coating, organic coatings. So metals are more aggressive towards the corrosive media, so that metal surface has to be protected. So these metals has been coated with some of the organic materials like paints, varnish, and enamels. Thereby, we may protect that surface from the aggressive environment. So these materials produces some impermeable membrane on the surface of the coating, and these coatings act as a barrier between environment and the metal. So this is one of the method to control the corrosion. So we have to discuss about one by one. First one is the paint. Paint is a suspension of finely divided nanomaterials which are present in a fluid medium. So that means paints are a suspension of nanomaterials, suspension of finely divided solid pigment materials. That is called as a nanomaterials. So finely divided pigment materials. All these materials are present in fluid medium. So this fluid medium has to be coated on the surface of the metal, and this surface is allowed to dry. After drying, that paint will produce some impermeable membrane on the surface of the metal. This film is having a considerable hiding power. That means surface color hiding power. So this drying process involves the oxidation and polymerization of the oil. So some important constituents are given here. We have to discuss one by one. So first one is the paint material, pigment material. So pigments are color producing agents. These pigments gives color to the coating, that means color to the paint. So mostly to produce white color we are using zinc and titanium dioxide materials. To give blue color we are using Prussian blue. To give red we have to use ferric oxide or basic lead. Chromium oxide is used to produce green pigments, and clay materials are used to give brown color. Chrome yellow and lead oxide have been used to produce yellow color. Okay, these are the important pigments. First, then we have to discuss about functions. These pigments gives the opacity and color to the film, and it gives good appeal to the film, and it gives strength to the film. If that film is exposed to the sunlight, then the UV radiations decolorizes that surface of the coating, and it may decompose the surface of the coating by producing some pores. These pores are very dangerous because that metal which is present inside that film may get corroded. So that's why we have to use these pigments. These pigments absorb that UV radiation. Thereby, UV radiation cannot decompose that surface of the coating. Thereby, that metal does not have contact with any environment. That means metal will be protected from the corrosive reagent strongly. So these are the important functions of the pigment. Next one is medium. Next one is medium. So this is the one of the film forming constituent of the paint. We are using drying oils like linseed oil, tung oil, semi-drying oils as a medium. These oils undergoes polymerization as well as oxidation. Thereby, it will produce some impermeable membrane on the surface of the metal. So these oils undergoes a slow drying process. Then it will form that film on the surface of the metal. Now functions. These these oil materials are used to hold the pigment on the surface of the metal. It may form protective layer after drying, and it is having more hydrophobic in nature. It may repel the water. Thereby, water cannot be diffused throughout this film. So thereby, that metal is free from water or free from humidity. Thereby, we can reduce the corrosion rate. After that, these metals are paint material, that means medium, is having more adhesion in nature. Adhesion means attaching ability. So because of this more adhesive property, they can be easily coated on the surface of the metal. Next one is thinners. Thinners are added to the film to reduce the viscosity, because viscosity of the paint should be reduced. If viscosity of the paint is more, means easily they may get dry, and we cannot do that coating also. So we have to coat that paint material on the surface of the metal. For sometimes it should be presented as a fluid form. It should not be dried. To reduce that speed of drying, we have to use thinners. These thinners reduces the viscosity of the paints, and they may give some time to the paint to get dry. So maximum we are using toluene, xylyl, and methylated naphthalenes as a thinners. What are the functions? These thinners are used to reduce the viscosity, and they dissolve the film forming materials together, and they suspend the film pigments in the paint. After evaporation of these thinners, that film will get more drying very speedily. That means that the film will dry easily. So to increase the elasticity of the film, we have to use these thinners in the film, in the paints. Next, dryers. Dryers are used to accelerate or catalyze the drying of the oil film. That means we have to use some of the materials to speed up the drying process of the oil material. If we are not adding dryers, then the drying duration of the paint will be long. So to reduce that, to make that oil to dry easily, we have to add dryers. So these dryers catalyzes the oxidation and polymerization and or condensation of these oil materials. That means medium. Then we can make that paint easily on the surface of the metal. So mostly naphthalene, naphthalenate, borates, and tungstens are used as dryers. These dryers carries oxygen and they helps the absorption of catalyst and catalyze the drying of the oil film by oxidation polymer. Already we have discussed this. Next one is plasticize. So these are the sometimes used in the paints to give elasticity to the film to prevent the crack. So if we are not adding any plasticize, this drying process leads to crack on the surface of the film. So we have to avoid that cracking. That's why we have to increase the elasticity to avoid that cracking. For that we have to add some plasticides. Triphenyl phosphate or dibutyl tartrate are used as a plasticize. Addition of these plasticizers to the film may help that film to keep without cracking. That is the important thing. So next one is fillers. These are the inert materials, and these are having a low opacity, and they can commonly we are using gypsum, chalk, silica, diatomaceous earth, talc, clay, etc. These fillers are used to avoid that agglomeration of the pigments on the surface of the film. So to make that pigment to hold randomly, we have to use these fillers. These fillers serve to fill the voids in the film. Sometimes that film may have some bubbles or some pores. To fill that pores, to avoid the formation of the bubbles, we have to use these fillers. Mostly these fillers act as a carriers for pigment color. Mostly some of the pigments like zinc sulfate, titanium oxide are more expensive. We can use these fillers as a alternative for these nanomaterials. That means alternative to zinc sulfate or titanium oxide zincs. These fillers are used to reduce the crack on the surface of the paint, and they may increase the durability of the film also. Next one is varnish. Next thing is varnish. So varnish are solutions of natural or synthetic gums. So varnish are maximum gums which are available, which are obtained naturally or synthetic or laboratory made. We can made it by laboratory or we can extract from natural products. So these are called as a varnish. So the medium may be drying oil, or here we are using oil, drying oil or a volatile solvent as a medium, and they are called varnish or split varnish. So what is varnish? Varnish are the solutions which may be obtained naturally or which may be synthesized in a laboratory also. They are in the form of gums in a medium. That medium may be any oil. Already we discussed that. So any may be drying oil or a volatile solvent. We can use solvent also. Volatile solvent means chloroform or a dichloromethane are the volatile solvents. They are getting evaporation within a room temperature. Those solvents are called as a volatile solvent. So here that naturally occurring or a laboratory synthetic gums, natural or synthetic gums are dissolved in volatile solvent, and thereby we are painting this varnish on the surface of the film. So after evaporation of that medium, we are getting impermeable membrane. This is called as a varnish. So constituents, what are the constituents? Here we are using drying oils like linseed oil, castor oil, fish and coconut oil. These oils can be used as a drying oils. Then resins, these are the gums, phenol formaldehyde, urea, melamine formaldehyde, alkyl resins, chlorinated rubbers, biphenyl resins. These are the gum materials. These gum materials may be available naturally or which may be These may be synthesized in laboratory also. These materials are act as a resins. They are the gum materials. Dryers, these are the materials act as a catalyst to dry that oil. So naphthanates, linolates, rosinates are of copper, manganese, zinc and lead. Next one is thinners or solvents, such as turpentine, naphthanates, kerosene, etc. So already we explained about the role of thinners in paints. Same role will be played here also. Functions. These varnish give protective or decorative coatings on the surface on which they are coated. So varnish give the protective coating on the surface of the metal, and also it will be more decorative to the coatings. Next, it also dries by evaporation. That means that oil will be dried due to the evaporation, oxidation and polymerization. After drying, it will give transparent, durable, lustrous and glossy fill on the surface of the steel.